Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Some do, some don't. So what? We're going to be talking about somebody that does today. Somebody speaking at High Stakes Advising. A couple years ago, we met him as a young 24-year-old. Knew a little bit, knew how to pick up the phone, wasn't afraid to pick up the phone. Now he's crushing it, and he's on stage. So he's a doer. We want to show you somebody out there doing it in the market. Welcome to the show, my good friend Chad Burdo. How are you, my friend?
Hey, doing great. Doing great.
All right. Yeah, so look, we'll talk a little bit about those listening on the podcast, on the replay. Again, today what we're going to do, cover a little overview. But if you want the detail, you got to check out High Stakes Advisor in August. Chad's going to be going over a step-by-step playbook on what he's doing to close accounts. So, Chad, I mean, you're how old, and you started how long ago in this business?
I lucked out, so I'm 27 years old. Everyone in this industry they either grew up into it or they fell into it through some relationship. I like to say I lucked out and I fell into it in college. So I was blessed. I was forced to take an insurance class through my business school. My professor was awesome. Day one of class, didn't talk insurance one or didn't talk finance one bit. He pitched the insurance industry, and I kind of got sold from then. But so that was 2017. I'm only 27 years old.
That's it, 27. So you think you
I got
can't
to tell
do it?
you, I got hats older than you, Chad.
There you
No,
go.
I'm usually the youngest person in any room I sit in, so it's
Yeah,
it's
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 worked
a
out well
beautiful thing.
sometimes, other times not so much.
We're gonna, talk more about how we closed about almost $1 million in revenue last year alone. And again, 26, 27 years old. For those out there that say they can't do it, it's a bunch of nonsense. Chad, I saw you. You got the dialer on. You got the calling machine on your ear already. Talk to me a little bit about cold calling. Does it still work?
Cold calling definitely does still work. And I think it's probably the best way to actually market now. Emails getting tougher, social is getting tougher. I mean, you hop on LinkedIn, everyone has got their own personal brand and everyone's got everything. So all the markets are getting flooded. But if you can actually create a conversation, a one-on-one conversation with someone you're speaking to, it's the best way to get a meeting, build rapport, and kind of get your entire sales process kicked off from the beginning.
And you studied from the SDR world, as those don't know, sales development, around the tech world. Younger guy came into business, knew how to use the technology, studied the telemarketing side, and now you're hitting them from every channel. But obviously, yeah, cold calling still works. It's funny you say LinkedIn. I hate to even go on LinkedIn anymore, just because there's just so much crap. I mean, people are posting personal stories. They're at the gym.
A
It's
lot of
like
a
it's
lot of
like Facebook.
puffery going on there.
We used to be able to read like good content and stuff online, industry news and things going on, but it's far has changed. And so, talking about the event, tell me a little overview without telling too much what maybe you're going to be talking about, and some of what you're doing now. Obviously, using virtual health, you're using solutions, self-funding solution, like I did when I started, to go after these older guys in the business that've been holding the BOR for 20 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, part of what I'm going to talk about is just a little bit of my story because I'm going to tell you right now, the first conversations I ever had with employers sound a lot different than what the conversations I have now sound like. And even when the first two self-funded groups that I migrated over from fully insured, that process was a lot rockier than it is now. And so my goal for the presentation is one is just kind of tell you where I was, and maybe your conversations sound like mine did year 2 years ago when I really started getting into the self-funded world. And hopefully I can shorten your learning curve. My goal is to shorten your learning curve as much as physically possible so that when you're talking to a group about self-funding, it's not a 3-year close anymore where you got to go out there and basically wait for them to have a bad renewal for them to finally do something about it. Hopefully you can take whatever I'm going to share. Hopefully there's one or two gold nuggets in there. Like any book, you're not going to take everything away, but hopefully there's something in there that can maybe take your long sales cycle, shorten it, or maybe you can start getting more appointments with your target market. We like to target CFOs and finance and the C-suite. And so hopefully we can kind of help you shorten that overall curve for you.
And you know, you're going to lay out the whole, I would even say 2 or 3 nuggets, because you're going to lay out the playbook on what you do. And so there's going to be guys that take it and do it and guys that don't. That's the reality. At the end of the day, you either take action or you don't. Craig liked me in the beginning. We got along because he took action. Chad was in the Bahamas with us last week, drinking margaritas, smoking Cuban cigars, because he took action and actually executed on the plan and what he's doing, where most people say, I
Yeah.
can't do it. Now, he's in a different position. He's in a hungrier position like I was. I had to hunt and kill to survive. I had no money. So many of you out there that are looking to grow, and the younger guys on the call here, get your ass to the event, learn from somebody that was in your shoes just a year, 2 years ago, and now is crushing it and is, just a whole different person. I mean, Chad, can I share? I mean, 2 years ago, we gave
Yeah,
you
no,
a free
I'll
ticket.
tell this. I'll tell the story, John. Yeah. So 2 years ago, before I was at where I am now, John had to comp my ticket to the event for me to go. I've been talking with him for a while, and really want to implement everything. Was learning a lot from him and Craig. I wasn't in a spot where I could drop, I think it was $1,500 a ticket at the time. And so I got my flight and my hotel and worked some things out with what's now my new employer at Henriette, great agency, so I could get myself there. And amazing speakers, a lot of great speakers, learned from Craig, John, everyone else that's speaking there, Oren Claff, and implemented a lot of it. And it's funny because when you actually implement it, it usually works. And so, now I'm in a much different spot, but it was kind of never was a rag situation, but it was a situation where, I was hungry, and hopefully, you don't need to be starving and dying to convert and do a great job in this business and win new business. But again, a lot of things I learned, I was able to directly carry over. And my goal is to kind of take some of what I've learned, some of the stuff that we've developed ourselves along the way, and impart some of whatever we've learned on to you.
Hey, I got a
Yeah.
question for you. So there's an old adage that says, your natural market is plus or minus 7 years your age. Now, if you're selling to CFOs, I got to imagine there ain't a lot of 30-year-old CFOs that are
No,
running
there's no
big enough
20-year-old ones
companies.
out there either, Craig.
Yeah. So you overcome that story that somebody like a sales manager might be telling you, market to your age group. That's all BS, right?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. John mentioned being in some SDR groups, and the number one thing is people talk about personalization and, knowing how many kids they have, how many dogs they have, whether vacation. The most important thing is relevance. So if you're able to put yourself in their seat and understand their world, understand their terminology, understand what's important to them, whether you're going after HR, whether you're going after the CFO, whether you're talking to owners of company, whatever it is, the number one thing is relevance.
Yeah.
And so if you can be relevant in their world and materially impact not only their company, but them and their position, make their numbers look better, help them hit their goals, help them get bonus, whatever the situation might be, help them recruit and retain, be relevant. And that really helps kind of get you on status with some of the people. I don't do this alone. I've got a good team around me. And so oftentimes I might bring someone in who kind of, while I may carry some of the technical conversation, it's not a solo shop. Having a good team around you is important too.
Tell me a little bit about, because you went from the world of learning some of these shiny objects, and over the 2 years you've even helped me, because I'm not selling retail anymore, but I do pitch employers here or there. But you've taken down the conversation, which we're going to talk about the event, so we're not going to talk about that today. But what was your conversation prior that you were banging your head against the wall you told me about?
Yeah. So, I mean, part of what I'm going to talk about is like the progression, and going from kind of like a shiny object salesman, because that's what I did. I was in there, I'd be sitting down with the CFO talking about, oh, you got to talk, look, we're going to fiduciary PVM, and you got to especially drug carve out, you got to do all these things. I remember getting to the end of a discovery call, and they're like, so how does the employee manage all this? And it was just like one of those things, was a complete disconnect of what I was telling and what I thought I knew and what I thought was important to them. versus what they were actually understanding was coming out of my mouth. And so, a lot of what my conversation has changed has been a vast simplification of what we talk about in the course of a meeting. When you sit down with the CFO a lot, and especially if they're fully insured, they don't know what you're talking about. They've known the big four their entire lives. They've known whatever 800-pound gorilla you have in your state. And so, part of our pitch has just been mass simplification of what we're talking about and to what's relevant. And I would say not even all of its benefits. A lot of it is 100% sales process and the questions you ask.
Yeah, I mean, simplifying everything, is the more I learn, the less I said, and the less you kind of hook them in that meeting. Craig is probably the best at it, where it's frustrating to listen to him sometimes on meetings, because by the time you get to the end of the call, he didn't tell
Sounds
him
like,
anything.
when are you going to tell him what you do? When are you going to tell him?
He doesn't even tell him in the first call, and he just gets into a second call and he's got their tongue hanging out. It's amazing to watch it, but as you go through, you realize it's like you just keep the powder dry and you're just holding it. You're just holding it in instead of blurting out that shiny object. That obviously takes confidence, certainty, experience, practice. Chad's a guy that, look, he's come so far fast. I asked how many times I've asked you your age, because I keep got to remind myself that now I'm the older guy in the room and he's still, in his 20s. And, everybody wants everything now. Those young guys listen, everybody wants everything now. Play the long game. Stop trying to hop around and sell this or try that.
Yes,
Find something to roll with it. Play the long game. Market for the long term. And before you know it, you're going to have a lot of money that you can't even count it. Okay. Chad's
don't sound like an idiot, right? Idiots go, that great movie, right? Squirrel, right? The idiots are the chasing. There's 40 point solutions, right? And every year there's another new 6, and everybody's good going around. Oh, it's MSK, it's DCP, it's shit, it's freaking endless. And like you discovered, Jesus, it sounds pretty confusing, right? The prospect's sitting there going, how are we supposed to manage all of these different things? How's the employee supposed to understand? And, so you figured out that the simplification makes it more real for people, because, man, this stuff, with all the jargon we have, it's like speaking a foreign language to most people. So,
yeah,
it's really insightful. Keep it simple.
Name it, claim it, frame it is what he's going to talk about at the event, and how he really has put this together to sell, right? Productizing your service. What's the best way to do it? What to avoid? What are the pitfalls? What works? What gets them on the phone? What gets them hooked? Because that's what's important, right? At the end of the day, they don't care about the details. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. And that's very important from every angle. Now, Chad, without giving too much detail, marketing, what are the different ways you're doing, complete marketing here that you're going to cover at the event?
Yeah. We'll be talking a little bit of cold calling. We're going to talk about all the basics, right? How you can kind of, and, Tony Hughes is going to be there speaking, and he talks combo prospecting, and that's something that we kind of preach here as well. Can't just call them, you can't just email them, and you can't just do it once every couple of weeks hoping you get a response. You have to, and this is a lot of SDR type stuff. And so whether you're going to be doing it as the broker, as the agency owner, or you're going to be assigning it to someone else, creating a system of how they can sell what you do. And ultimately what we sell is, we're talking healthcare. At its very core, it's just a health plan. That's all it is. All we're doing is selling a health plan that's different than what they're doing today. And so it's simple, right? But it can be more difficult to execute, especially if you're trying to sound a little bit different than everybody else. And frankly, a lot of sounding different than everyone else is asking more questions than talking. They're used to, when you finally get that meeting, going in there and pitching shiny objects and pitching things, and just kind of throwing up what we know. And I was that guy. I'm not gonna say that I wasn't, but part of the process of getting at bats.
You learned that it didn't work, right? You went
yeah. You bang your head against the wall a lot, and
But you're the smartest guy in the meeting.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Try to spend that psychic income, right? Let me ask you a question, right? So you're a young guy, You're young buck, right? That's what I call you guys. You're young buck, right? But we love the young bucks because you guys don't have a bunch of mud and shit in your head that gets in the way of talking yourself out of doing something and taking action. You guys are the ones that kick ass. So now that you're on the other side of what was complexity for you, is it much easier for you to think bigger on what you could do, what size clients you could manage, how much money you could make, how big your book can be?
Yes, and that is actually one of our largest focus too. Is you know, the agency I'm at, we're a 60-year-old agency, and we're calling ourselves, you know, a 60-year-old startup, right? Not we're trying to put the
Nice.
people in place so that we can grow, because we had become sort of a relationship kind of agency, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. I mean, you can
If you
collect
want to
some
grow at trend rates the rest of your life, yeah,
collect some
wonderful.
referrals. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to go about it, but you know, we really want to grow this thing, and then not only do we want to grow this thing, but a lot of what we do, whether you realize or not, creates a real impact for employees and employers. And so, you know, a lot of what we're going to talk about is how you can do that. So we'll talk about, you know, the sales process from the beginning, what the discovery process, and kind of how we lay out our meetings, and ultimately through the end, and some of the results and case studies and how you can leverage those to win future groups as well. And that's for those groups. And eventually, we'll all we're in the process of, you know, productizing what we do, right? Like I said, all we're doing is selling another health plan. It just happens to be better than, I believe what we do in our state is better than what a lot of employers, or how a lot of other employers are buying insurance today. And so you probably have a product like that. You probably have a solution like that that you're doing today. And we're going to talk about how you can take that solution and market it not one to one, but one to many. And so, you know, you don't, while cold calling is important, it's never going to go away. I think it's actually making a resurgence. Um, we'll talk about how you can market one to many and get more people on the line, so that, you know, if you're a senior broker, senior agent, you're experienced, you know, you have a book of clients, you don't have to go bang your head 4 hours a day cold calling. You can actually pass off some of that responsibility, drive them to an event, drive them to something else, and you can talk about what you do to a group of
Right.
people rather
So
than.
let me interject. You made a good point. Hey, you may have a product that you think, you know, is the greatest thing as well, but guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. So what you have to learn how to do is to make it, as Chad said, make it relevant to a prospect. You guys all have great widgets and great products and great this and great that, but nobody cares. You know, the McDonald's brothers had a great system. Nobody cared. Ray Kroc was the guy who sold them their malt mixers, their chocolate shake makers. And he recognized the opportunity and went, holy crap, these guys have no idea how to market what they have. And Ray Kroc is the one that built McDonald's into what you know it. Read some businesses on books. I mean, this stuff happens over and over again. The insurance industry is no different. Blockbuster was at their apex. They had 2,000 stores nationwide, and Netflix offered to sell themselves for $50 million. Hello? Blockbuster's out of business, and Netflix is worth billions. This stuff happens over and over and over again. There's unrecognized opportunities, and you have to shorten the learning curve, or you can have 57 prospect meetings and close 3 groups. Yeah, knock yourself out. Or you could show up at the event and shorten your learning curve.
Yeah, and if you can't afford the price of admission, you don't. That's a problem. You know, I gave it to Chad. It was starting. He was broke, and I liked him, so we let him come. Most of you aren't. So
if it's a financial stretch, that's your sign.
Barely covers. Doesn't even cover the cost of you at the event, but the time you pay for the
We're not
speakers.
going to go out and get a bunch of sponsors to just throw shit at you guys.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to be willing to invest in yourself. It already tells us the kind of people that are going to show up.
Yeah, and you know, we're not going to have the shiny object at the event. We've got a few of our partners, and that's great. But the reality is yeah, you need these objects to retain the account, make sure solutions are in place and they work, right? And that's great. Maybe you go to another conference, you find out about this is more of a workshop on sales and marketing, how to close prospects. and get new clients and grow your block like Chad has almost $1 million last year from, being broke a year or two prior to that. But having the knowledge, having the solutions, but not knowing maybe how to get it done or what to say in the meetings. And now he's able to do that through consulting language, through different language of who he's speaking to. And most importantly, simplifying his messaging, productizing the messaging, and then marketing that message completely where everything is marketing around it. And he's driving interested parties to it through multiple channels here. It's not simple, right? I mean, look, at the end of the day, this is not simple because everybody's not having those kind of numbers as that success. I know it. I see the advisors out there, and look, everybody tries, but very few make it. Very few do the things that are required for success and fall back into the bad broker habits. You got to get out of it. You got to get sales training. You got to come to an event, whether it be mine or somebody else's, through sales training every year. You got to get back to the playbook here, right? Blocking and tackle, like Chad said in the beginning, it's simple stuff that we're going to go over, but you need to hear it and have a process in place. We just hired somebody to come on and help us with processes just to get it down. You got to have things in place and streamline it. And, before you know it, you're going to be counting money, right? So, Chad, anything else you want to cover or let people know? We'll keep it short and sweet to hook these guys to hear what you have to say. I mean, if I'm an advisor listening, I'm struggling. I'm young.
Yeah.
Get you up to the event, learn from somebody that's in your shoes and, was broke maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, like the major catalyst for me to actually start making changes, I was watching a lot other brokers win business with a lot crappier strategies. And I thought they were actually doing damage to a lot of employers. Right. So, I looked at it and I was like, there's a lot of people out there, they're doing something right, even though you may have the best product, the best solution, and whatever person you're speaking to, unless you're getting the meetings and kind of sitting down and talking to them in a way that gets them to take action, it's just theory. And so, hopefully, my goal is to kind of just share how I kind of turned what I learned from John, Craig, and a lot of other brokers on this call, frankly, and put it into practice. And hopefully, there's some good things in there. I'm open book and look forward to meeting a lot of you out there. And I'm happy to share anything that comes up while we're there.
Yeah, no questions before. Don't go calling Chad. You got to come to the event. He's not going to take your call. No, in all seriousness, going to be a great event. Chad's going to be speaking. We got some other people there. It's going to talk about sales processes, professionalized 80 salespeople, 80 SDRs. I mean, we got Chet Holmes' daughter, Amanda Holmes, there, the ultimate sales machine. She's going to be on the show next week. Make sure you check that out. You're going to have materials provided to you. Tony Hughes, some of you that get invited, going to be VIP day out on the yacht in Fort Lauderdale. Going to be a beautiful day. So check it out. High Stakes Advising 2023. Check it out at virtuealliance.com and you'll see it. Chad, thanks so much for sharing with us what you did today. And we'll show some secrets come.
Hey, wait, before you go, are you going to make sure that you also tell your secrets about your manscaping?
Yeah, I'll be sure to share those habits for those interested.
You need to see Chad to see what I'm talking about.
I'm kind of a little jealous. Chad is like the old me. He's 27. He's taller. He's big. He's got a nicer beard. His hair, he's got no gray still. I'm just, I'm getting past my time. He's the next big football player. Chad was 275 pounds, all muscle.
Shut the front door. Really?
I was a thick boy, man.
He was crying about it in the Bahamas because he was 225. I said, Jesus Christ.
Dang.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Everyone, we'll look forward to seeing you, and we'll be here again next week. High Stakes Advisor 2023. Chad, thanks so much, buddy. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Be good.